Mariners make their 2 picks for day 1 of the MLB draft. They pick 15th and 55th. Yeah, 55th. And they add 2 pitchers. And some people are going to look at that and say, what the heck? And some people are going to look at that and say, what the heck? I don't know. That's just what I picture people saying anytime the Seattle Mariners do something. But I actually really like both picks. I will point out something at pick 15, but I think they did well today. Before I talk about the picks, let's talk about Simply Seattle, the very best in Seattle sports gear. Use code MOLLYWOP15 to save 15% off your order. It's a great deal. It also shows that you're paying attention to this show and Mollywop Monday, MOLLYWHOP15. Really appreciate the support. Really appreciate Simply Seattle for sponsoring the show. They're the absolute best. So with the 15th pick, the Seattle Mariners take Jurrangelo, Cijntje. And before you go, Chris Crawford, that can't be right. Yes, Cijntje. Cijntje is Cijntje. Okie dokie. That's going to be one that people struggle with for a little while. The fun thing about Jurrangelo Cijntje, and I talked about this with Mile Y enthusiasts, and by the way, I mentioned both players as targets. I'm going to toot my horn a little bit. Mention of his targets in both of my prep, my videos of previewing college pitching and prep pitching. So I'm an idiot, but sometimes I'm not that big of an idiot. And it's not like I profiled 30 guys for both. I profiled 3 college pitchers for pick 15, and I profiled 5 prep pitchers for pick 55. And yeah, kind of nailed it. Had no inside information, but kind of nailed it. So Jurrangelo Cijntje was not ranked, according to a bunch of you, very high on a lot of people's lists. But he was ranked high on RJ Anderson's list. And RJ Anderson, my buddy from CBS Sports, I think is as good of a draft analyst as anybody right now. Keith does great work. Kylie does great work. I'm not saying that anybody does bad work. I would never do that. I just think RJ's probably the guy that I trust the most right now. And he had him ranked 14th on his list. And it's understandable why. The numbers at Mississippi State aren't great, but I think he's still a pitcher. Usually when we talk about a college arm, we're talking about a guy who has the high floor, right? The guy who's basically ready to go. I don't think that is Cijntje. I don't see Cijntje helping the Mariners in 2025 unless they made a bullpen move, which I don't think they would do. The interesting thing that has made him a famous pitcher in this class is he is a switch pitcher. He throws from the right side. He throws from the left side. Not too many guys have done that. In fact, the only guy I've ever seen do it is Pat Venditti. I personally, and it has come out that the Mariners are going to give Cijntje the choice of whether or not he wants to be a right-handed pitcher or if he wants to be a switch pitcher. They are not going to give him the choice to be a left-handed pitcher. And that tells you which arm he's stronger with, right? Like the left arm, you typically see 90 to 92 with a very good slider and an occasional changeup. With the right arm, you're talking 96, 98 with a plus slider and occasionally a pretty good changeup, much more often with the right arm. I personally would have him focus on just throwing with the right arm, because that's where I think he's going to make his living. And that's his chance of becoming a mid-rotation starter or better. Because that velocity and that athleticism that he shows, he's listed at 5'11", and he might be a little bit shorter than that. The easy comp is Marcus Stroman because of the fact that he is on the shorter side. He's not quite as short as Stroman, but I think that's actually kind of a lazy comp. And another reason with Stroman is because he's an athletic dude. And Cijntje is probably the most athletic pitcher in this class. Like you just see the athleticism. So I think I would just make him a right-handed starter and see if I can get a double plus fastball, a plus slider, and a usable third pitch, and see him move pretty quickly through the organization. I don't think there's a lead upside here, but I think there's enough upside to definitely justify him going 15th, because I think his floor is kind of underrated. And it's not just because of the left-handed thing. But if I had my druthers, I would just make him a right-handed pitcher. The people were using the word gimmick. I don't like that. I don't think that's accurate for Cijntje. I don't think it's a gimmick that he throws with his left arm. And he's not a guy who just automatically makes that switch either. He is a guy who throws with did make pitches with his left arm. So crazy talking about this like it's a normal thing. But when he feels more confident with the right, he goes with the right. And, when he's going to face, a Josh Rojas, maybe he does go to the left side because, there are some lefties that just flat out cannot hit other lefties. But the stuff plays a lot better from the right side. Now, the big question mark here, right, is Trey Yesavage. The Mariners decide to go with Cijntje over Trey Yesavage. Do I think that was a mistake? Kind of. And the only reason I say kind of is because I haven't seen those medicals. And this is a pitcher who, if you aren't familiar, Trey Yesavage, I think, has probably the second best stuff of any college arm. Maybe third. Brody Brett's stuff is ridiculous, but the command is so bad. In terms of actual guys I think can start, I think I would place him maybe third. Maybe you go Hagen Smith, Chase Burns, and then Yesavage. But it's really close. And he's in a tier all by himself if he's behind those other two. But he's also a player who had a collapsed lung. And he was able to return. And that's, beyond great. But I can understand having some medical concerns with a pitcher with a collapsed lung. And yeah, I would need to see the medicals to completely do that. Having said that, if the medicals came back clean, and I'm wondering how clean they came back if 19 teams passed on him. And let's be realistic, more like 10 teams passed on him, right? Because there were some players who went ahead of him that should have went ahead of him. Maybe the medicals aren't great. I hope they are, obviously. I want dude to be healthy. If he was healthy, yes, I would much rather have Trey Yesavage. Much rather have Trey Yesavage. That's not an insult to Cijntje. That is a compliment to Yesavage. So, if he was healthy, I do think it was a little bit of a mistake to pass. Financially here, I have no idea. I have no idea. With their 55th pick, I'd probably get a little better idea here. Maybe we'll have a much better idea with their third round pick. By the way, rounds 3 through 10 tomorrow. I'll do a video on those guys as well. Assuming I'm not too tired. Shouldn't be. But I think we'll have a real good idea of what this is going to cost based on their third, fourth, fifth round picks. But I imagine it's going to be a round slot. I would have that number for you. Well, I'll get the number for you right now. Why not? You got nothing better to do. I got nothing better to do. Slot value, $4.880 million, $900. $4,880,900. The 900, I don't know why that makes me giggle. It's like, here's an eye patch. But I would guess, and this is just a guess, Cijntje signs for like 3.5 or 4. Maybe you save a little bit of money, but not a ton. Not a ton. So, long story short, did I love this pick? No, but only because I really like Trey Yesavage. Did I hate this pick? Absolutely not. Did I like this pick? Yeah, I think so. But again, I will compare this guy's career to Yesavage's because I really liked him and he was still on the board. All right. Let's talk about the pick at 55, which I love. So with that 55th pick, they take Ryan Sloan, a right-hander out of York High School in Illinois. This is a 6'5", 220-pound 18-year-old. For those curious, and I think you kind of should be, he turns 19 at the end of January. So he's essentially 18 and a half. I will have a big old hot old take for you. I think Ryan Sloan is the best prep pitcher in this class. Now, some of that has to do with the fact that William Schmidt, who would have been the best prep pitcher in this class by a substantial margin, withdrew. Technically, he couldn't withdraw, but he basically announced, "Don't draft me," which is code for not "I love LSU." It's code for nobody met my number. All due respect to you, Billy. I don't know if you go by Billy or not. Let's keep it 100. You didn't get your number, and that's great. Or you are more than entitled to go to college. Good for you. Good for you. Put out a high number. You deserve it. You were the best player. You'll forgive me if I don't think it's just a big love of LSU. I think it's a big love of wanting to get your number, and you deserved a big number. So, since Schmidt didn't count, I think Ryan Sloan was the best prep pitcher in this class. We're talking about a fastball that already gets up to 99. It has cut. He can sink it. He can manipulate it. It's very rare for a prep to be able to do the things that he does with a fastball. And then it's even rarer for an 18-year-old. You could argue that his best pitch is a change. Some guys show a really good change because it's like a splinker and it has some movement. The thing I like about his change is it's the same arm action as his fastball. That same arm action. It's kind of like, Felix had the Cambio. I always forget how you pronounce that. The really good changeup. It's very similar to that. It's in the mid 80s. And, there's a big enough velocity difference for it to be effective. It sinks. It's going to give left-handed hitters the feel bats. But I think it's good enough, too, to be a pitch that has enough tailing action or fading action to give right-handed hitters trouble as well. I really like that pitch. On top of that, he has a really good slider. And, oh, by the way, is there any organization better at developing sliders right now? I don't think so. There's some good ones, but I think the Seattle Mariners are as good as anybody. So at 6'5", 220, repeating delivery can be pretty difficult. And, there's still some work to be done there. But for somebody his age and size, he does it exceptionally well. Exceptionally well. I love this pick. I just absolutely let out a fist pump and immediately tweeted that I freaking love this pick. He is the type of upside that to get at 55 is special. And we'll see what happens, of course. But in terms of process, I don't think you could do better than Ryan Sloan at 55. Was easily the best player left on my board. Easily. And the best player left on a lot of people's boards. So I'm really happy with this. Now we'll see what we're talking about here in terms of bonus, because the 55th pick comes with $1,641,800. So maybe just like a Google Pixel at the end there. Ain't no way in hell he's signing for 1.6. You are going to have to get creative. And you will probably see some senior signings for the Seattle Mariners, some 100K guys to save some money there. Because I would guess that, and again, I don't have any of this information. You're looking at least double that, is my guess. I would guess, if I was forced to guess, $3.5 million. But very irresponsible guessing on my part. I really like this class. If you told me that the Mariners were going to come away with Cijntje and Sloan, sign me up. Sign me up. And I get that some of you are going to say, gosh, they should have added a bat. And gosh, these pitchers aren't going to be able to help them for a while. It's the MLB draft. You take the best players on your board. And yes, there were better players, I think, than Cijntje on the board. In my personal opinion, Carson Benj was a better player. We talked about Yesevich. Ryan Waldschmidt, who I was surprised lasted as long as he did. Maybe a couple of the prep arms were a little better, like Cam Caminiti. Ryan Sloan was a better prospect on my board. But to get both is a really nice piece of business. A really nice piece of business. So, tell me what you guys think. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Just real quick, my favorite drafts so far, outside of the Mariners, who don't have one of the best drafts, but an upper echelon draft, Love what Pittsburgh's done. I love what Colorado has done. Love what the Diamondbacks have done. Mets have done a nice job. If we're talking about questionable value drafts, I would go with the Marlins for sure. I'd go with the Brewers for sure. Couple question marks about the Twins picks, but I don't hate them. Yeah, those would be my favorites and my not so favorites so far. But I really like what the Mariners have done. Tell me what you think. Back with another draft video tomorrow. And a reminder, if you hit join, not only can you view a bunch of my draft preview stuff, not only do you get access to weekly chats, we'll do one during the All-Star game, by the way, you also will be able to get a really cool video that I'm going to do where I get the top 10 picks for the Seattle Mariners. And I talk to a scouting director not involved with the Seattle Mariners about what he thinks of the picks. And he also will give some comps. I know you people like comps. I hate comps, but I know you guys like them. So I'll do that for you. Really good job. And Ryan Sloan, welcome to the Seattle Mariners, baby.